Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Spins a web.
Anytime.
Catches crooks just like flies.
Hey there!
There comes a Spider-Man.
In the heat of the night, at the scene of the crime. Alright, Boo, hit it!
I don't know the lyrics. I told you.
Oh my god, it's been like 50 years, man.
I don't know it. I really don't.
Alright! In case you haven't guessed, this week on the new review, we are going to review Spider-Man Homecoming. Hey, this is Jpar, and this is the new review. This week on the show, we review Spider-Man Homecoming. And this week on the show, we have WPN crew members Clayton and Da Boo. Say hello to the crowd.
What's up, guys?
Hey-oh.
And that's right, we're here to review the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, which is oh my god, it's another reboot. Are you shitting me? They're doing this again?
It's funny.
They're doing this? Oh, wait, it's in the Marvel Universe. It's fine, guys. It's fine. It's in the Marvel Universe.
I was just looking at my notes, actually, and I made that point. Like,
you did.
I got, like, serious comic book burnout from all the reboots. Like, what have they rebooted there? What do I got here?
Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty before we get into that. This is...
Seriously, Hulk, Batman...
All right.
Batman.
So
that's DC's fault in there.
This is rated PG-13, and it's directed by John Watts, and takes place several months after the events of Captain America's Civil War. Peter Parker, with the help of his new mentor, Tony Stark, who is played by Robert Downey Jr., of course, tries to balance his life as an ordinary high school student in Queens, New York City. And, so it's definitely a continuation... on the MCU, the current Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Avengers and Iron Man and Captain America movies and all that, all the latest ones. This is starring Tom Holland as Peter Parker, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes, he's playing the Vulture in this one, and Robert Downey Jr. is returning as Iron Man, and Marissa Tomei is returning from Civil War, this time to play May Parker again. John Favreau returning again, playing Happy Hogan, and also Zendaya. Yep, that's right. Donald Glover makes an appearance in this, and Laura Harrier, and Jacob Batalon.
Donald Glover.
There's lots of people. Let's just say there's lots of people. There's even people I'm not even mentioning who are like, you'd recognize their faces.
Donald Glover's place was small, though. Like, after seeing him in so many seasons of Community, like, I was surprised that they actually relegated him to such a
Well, I
small
think he might be the beginning of another character, but we'll get into the details on that when we get into Spoiler Town. How we usually break it down here today, folks, or every day on the We Promise Nothing show, is we give you a rating, and then we give you, a reason why that rating is. We try not to get into too many spoilers, and then we flip it over in the Spoiler Town. So if you, for some reason, haven't seen the movie yet, at this point you can stop watching or stop listening, whatever the case may be. And or you come back and listen to it after you've seen the movie. We would really enjoy that. So before we get into the movie, I'm just going to remind everyone that we have another great show like this. It's called Late Night Ticket on Eastlink. It's on Channel 10 if you're in the Sudbury area, and I've also heard that it's on demand if you're outside the Sudbury area. So you could definitely check us out there if you want to put a face to our voices. And Channel 10 in the Sudbury area, HD 610, and we're also now available on demand if you have Eastlink.
Oh, I've been told we're handsome.
Oh, nice.
Just so you know.
I always wondered.
I don't have any mirrors in my house.
Neither do I.
What is with you guys? No one has a mirror, apparently.
Alright, so, to start us off in the review, we're going to go with Clayton, first impressions.
Okay, so, again, I wasn't really that hyped for this movie because, of the endless rebooting of the Marvel and DC franchises, actually. Like, Hulk has gone through how many iterations? Batman. Even Deadpool. Deadpool has gone through 2 different reboots, right?
Yes.
With Wolverine. So I kind of...
Well, not 2 different. He's gone through 1 reboot.
Well, 1 reboot. There's
2 different...
Wolverine origins.
Even though they're both Ryan Reynolds, it's...
it's not the ssame.
It's kind of
it's
a
not even the
reboot?
same origin. Yeah, like it's different. But the point is that I wasn't really super like stoked on the movie. But so I went in and just kept my expectations level. But Holland's portrayal of Peter Parker is quite good, and it was surprising, and I liked the tone of the movie, and I liked I just liked how he acted it all out. I think he's a really solid Peter Parker.
Okay, so all right, seems like it's pretty warm so far. And what are your first impressions?
I had the same in regard that when I went in, I was actually having fairly low expectations. I didn't want to keep my hopes up too high, right? So having said that, I felt like I was genuinely, I enjoyed this. It wasn't quite the Spider-Man I expected or really wanted, I think. But it was one that I feel like, I hate to use the pun, but one that we needed.
Oh my god.
The Spider-
You just
But
used the
needed.
Dark Knight fucking thing? Ugh.
Oh, speaking of Batman, right? But let's be honest, right? We're talking about a character that once again we're getting another revisit to. So going into this movie, I knew there were certain things I had to kind of accept or have a negative connotation against the movie, and I didn't want to allow it to be negative going in. If I wanted to allow them to tell me why they made certain changes or certain adjustments, we'll get into those later, obviously. But I'm just saying that, having said that, this movie was still genuinely enjoyable, but it still had its flaws that I was hoping would not have happened. So.
Yeah. So my impressions going into this is, I actually really enjoyed Tom Holland as Peter Parker and the Spider-Man character in Civil War and in Captain America 3. I thought he played his part out well. So if you haven't seen that movie, you gotta check that out, at least for the airport scene alone. And yeah, I thought he did an excellent job there. So I was willing to, as you said, try to accept him, try to see how they're gonna fit him into this greater Marvel Cinematic Universe. So yeah, so I was kind of like skeptical. I wasn't sure what they were doing. They're kind of doing like a John Hughesy kind of thing. Hughes time thing kind of thing going on. Anyways, I don't know. I was like reading into the trivia. They said they watched a lot of John Hughes movies. The Breakfast Club and
In that regard, yeah.
And Ferris Bueller and all that.
Well,
and you can kind of tell a little bit that influence was in there, right?
It had a very Americana feeling to it.
It was like a high school. It was really, really focused on his high school, right?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High meets
Spider-Man.
That's the biggest difference of all with all of the Spider-Man movie that we've seen. Ironically enough, the title itself, Spider-Man, he's not technically a man. He's a teenage boy, right? So going into this, that was the first thing they did perfectly fine in this movie, that I have to admit, is we got this young-looking actor who plays a young boy in high school. And immediately it's believable for me, right? So that's a very positive thing, I think, with this version of Spider-Man. On the other hand, it's a complete rewrite of the character and how I'm seeing it through his eyes, right? And I don't mind that, but at the same time, it changed the entire tone of the movie, and I think that was the issue I had. Having left the movie, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, thinking like, oh great, now I just have to digest all this.
Now that I think about it, though, the one thing that was actually really nice about this, and this is not really a spoiler, but the fact that even though it's kind of a reboot, it's kind of a reimagining, it's not actually an origin story.
No, it's definitely not.
They didn't feel the need to beat you over the head with his origin story, because they're like, you know what, you've seen the movies, you know who Peter Parker is, you know who Aunt May is and all that, right? So
we won't get into the nitty-gritty of those details, but you're absolutely right. This is not an origin story for Peter Parker or Spider-Man. He's already Spider-Man in the universe, which is seen in the movie, in the whole universe, because he's already in Civil War. He already has his powers when Tony meets him.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the review. Well, let's break it down to a rating now. Clayton, go ahead first. Let us know why you're giving us that rating. Without too many spoilers, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5, and some of the things I liked about it, the fact that in this movie, Spider-Man actually feels like he's a part of the MCU. I mean, licensing issues notwithstanding, because Spider-Man's coming from Sony and Marvel Pictures is handling the rest.
Yeah, right. For people who don't know, Sony owns the rights to do Spider-Man movies in the movies and other media.
The nice thing was, though, is that they took the time. Those studios got together, or the owners got together, and they made sure that they did use Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and those characters, like from the Avengers, they're in the movie, and it doesn't feel. It doesn't, like, Spider-Man in Civil War kind of felt like Sony lent Spider-Man to Marvel,
which was awesome.
And it was, but it didn't really feel. It felt like Spider-Man was like, okay, we'll let him out to play for a bit. Okay, now we're taking him back. Now this time, it feels like he's actually a part of that universe, and they go a long way towards ingraining that into the movie.
Yeah.
So it actually worked really well, and I liked a lot. Like, I like Parker's humor throughout the movie, and I liked a lot of the little in-jokes that they put in there.
Yeah, there was a lot.
So that's
3.5?
Yeah, I give it a 3.5.
Da Boo.
I was fighting with myself on this one. I honestly feel 3 was the highest I could give it. I think the only reason why, guys, is that I fell in love with the fact that we had this young teenage boy that was growing up to become the Spider-Man that we know he will soon become. And I think that was the emphasis that I got out of this version of Spider-Man. He's nowhere near an experienced fighter. He's just, not too long ago realized his powers. So that type of Spider-Man is a whole lot different than, let's say, the one we got with Garfield, or even Tobey Maguire for that matter. They both got to the point where they went beyond high school and then had a life afterwards. This character has none of that to its advantage. And having said that, I think that's why I really loved this version of Peter Parker. But my gripes with the movie, I think, were that it was too much Peter and not enough Spider-Man. And I don't know if that's really the case here, or if that's just me seeing it that way.
I love that he's a young boy.
Too much Peter. That's the tagline for this show. Too much Peter.
Too much Peter.
Anyways.
Well, anyhow, I think...
See that he was a handful?
No.
Oh, boy.
No, you said that one now. But again, I really do have to give credit, I think the way you had said it, right, to the way the writers, and if not that, the owners of said property, we're talking Spider-Man as an iconic character, right? Before he's even written into any given story, they had a lot of responsibility to bring this character at the forefront in a completely different light. Mm-hmm. Before, they had the advantage of sometimes the star power. And when Kevin considered that, sorry, I forgot his name, Tom Holland. He did such a great job at giving us a very young, innocent perspective on a character that I don't think had been done right.
The awkward teen.
Yeah, and it's not to really go against Garfield or Maguire in that respect. They're actors in what they do in their own right, but they're just not young enough for me to believe in such a character. So it created different personalities of Peter Parker that I had to accept the way they did it, right? Mm-hmm. So going into this movie, I love the fact that I enjoyed the character, but it wasn't enough to say that. Other than maybe Vulture was the main reason why I paid attention to this movie. You know what? I had basically accepted the type of Spider-Man we had, but I almost put him on the back burner because none of his gadgets
Michael Keaton's performance as Vulture.
Yeah, maybe that too. It was a combination of things, and maybe the way they written Vulture in as a character that was not quite the villain we expected, right? So I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it's the fact that we had two totally different versions of characters that I wasn't quite expecting out of this multiverse. But again, all the better. But again, it wasn't enough. It wasn't the Spider-Man that I was really hoping for. Maybe that's what it is.
All right, I understand your Batman analogy now.
My long-winded Batman analogy.
So I'm actually, I'm actually gonna 3.5 is what I'm gonna say. And the problem and there's parts about this movie that I like, and there's parts that I don't like about this movie. Maybe for that reason I should give it less, but it was fun. It was a fun movie. I will say that. Like, overall, when I look at it, it's fun. So the battle with me is I'm having a problem. Me being a fan of Spider-Man, so like that part of me is fighting with the part of me that wants a good movie. So, and it's like, okay, like it was good, but it's like they really changed a lot. I'm not gonna tell what they changed just yet. But I think that's why I kind of settled on this 3.5. It was still a fun movie, and it's still been more fun than the DC movies have really been, so it's still up there. And I'm still excited to see Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe. I enjoy Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He is very likable. And despite that he's young or not an older Spider-Man, that doesn't make a difference. Maybe it's a good thing because he can be Spider-Man for a long, long time. We'll see. That way we won't have another reboot. And also, as I said, Michael Keaton was excellent as the Vulture, so 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we're going to flip over in the spoiler town. This is where we're going to really break down this movie, and we're going to tell you what we like about this movie and what we really don't like about this movie.
In your Batman voice.
In my Batman voice.
I'm Batman.
We got the Spider-Man we deserve, not the one we need, or some stuff
the
like
one we
that.
need, not the one we deserve.
However that saying goes.
We want, not the one we need.
All right, so you get to go first, Clayton. You're
awesome.
Clayton. Look, G Scoop, why don't you tell us what you think about Spider-Man's zoinks?
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
I'm gonna channel shades of Miles here. Peter Parker actually goes through a great character arc in this movie. At the beginning of the movie, he coming hot off of his involvement with the Avengers.
So you're dedicating this review to Miles, who can't be with us this week?
Yes, Miles, you are the wind beneath my wings.
Whatever Clayton says, he's speaking for Miles as well.
Okay.
You also like The Revenant, right?
And Snow Dogs.
Oh yeah, I love The Revenant. I know you and Miles love The Revenant.
So Parker goes through a really great character arc in this movie, and that he comes off of his involvement with the Avengers after Civil War, right. And he's been involved with them, and now he's got this adolescent hard-on to work with the Avengers. You know, he's still new, learning his powers. You know, and he's gotten involved with somebody much bigger than him, and he's
which excited. Is Tony Stark.
Exactly. So he's really excited about it. So at the beginning of the movie, they show him, and he's really trying to get through to Happy all the time because Happy is his connection to the Avengers.
Right.
And then gradually throughout the movie, through different interactions with people, especially through Tony Stark as a father figure, he learns what it means to actually be a hero and what it takes and what you have to give up and what you can achieve. Stark actually went through basically the same change during Age of Ultron, during the Segovia incident, where his conscience got the best of him, all those people that died, and he started questioning his own actions, you know, and he came to grips with it, and then now he is Parker's mentor. So after that, he went through all of Civil War against Cap, you know, like he really had to question himself, what he wanted to bring to the world and what he wanted to bring to the Avengers, and now he sees Peter Parker as this really young, impressionable kid who's really doe-eyed and wants to do the same things that he wanted to do, but he tries to give him the knowledge of his experience, like as a father. So,
which Parker never had, if you know the history of Parker.
Exactly, yeah. So, and Parker didn't have that.
And he also lost. Figure. Everyone knows Uncle Ben, who was his father figure.
So he gets to go through all of that, and then at the end of the movie, and this is the spoiler part.
Now, whether he has an Uncle Ben or not.
Well, yeah.
In this MCU, we don't know because we never mentioned it's not.
They don't mention it.
Yeah, it's not an origin story.
But the point is that the male figure is not there, and at the end of the movie, when he is actually offered a position with the Avengers, he actually turns it down. And Tony, trying to save face, says, you know, he says, "Oh well, it was just a really big test. Like it was just a test."
Which it wasn't.
They were actually going to offer Peter a place with the Avengers, and he turns it down. And
or at least Tony's version of the Avengers.
Yeah. So I feel like, and I'm going out on a limb here, but I feel like this Peter Parker, and I've seen the other Spider-Man movies, this Peter Parker, I feel, is the Peter Parker that could go up against Carnage. He has that potential for growth. He's grown so much in this movie, and if they started a movie about the Maximum Carnage storyline, all they would have to do is let a year or two go by, and that level of maturity, it would have seeded itself in him, and he would be able to handle that.
Honestly, that's what if they call it, I don't know, they're not going to call it Homecoming 2, but I want to see the next MCU installment of Spider-Man be Maximum Carnage, because I want to see Captain America involved, because he's involved in Maximum Carnage.
Yeah, I think that this iteration of Spider-Man could really handle that storyline well. Like,
so, did you say your best and worst yet?
Oh, that's well, that's why I really like this one, because Peter has a fully realized story arc. So that's my thing.
Okay.
He goes.
What's your worst?
The fact that Michael Keaton as the Vulture, which he does an awesome job as the Vulture, turns out to be Peter's high school crush's father.
Oh yeah.
That's one of those things, like Shades of Harry Osborn.
Yeah,
that's one of those things
that
that shrinks these movies, it shrinks these universes to where it's so convenient. Like, yeah, okay, I understand they live in the same city, but come on, like, you're telling me that the one guy, like, he's got this massive crush on this girl, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And then
so
it just turns out that it's
different love interest this time. It's not Mary Jane. It's not Gwen Stacy. It's Liz, no last name disclosed. Who everyone thought was Liz Allen.
Yeah.
Who is a character from the comics, and he has a love interest with in there.
But they have, by the end of the movie, they have moved her out of the way, and they have placed MJ in front of him.
Okay, well, let's not... Yeah. Okay.
That's
not even really MJ!
It's not. It isn't.
All right,
it isn't what it is.
Did you say your damn worst yet?
My worst is the fact that
it's too convenient.
It was a big letdown, actually.
Okay. Save some for everybody else.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to cut into this movie too.
It's funny. Jay gets all emotional when we don't.
When it comes to Marvel movies, I do get emotional.
Those were the two biggest things that I took away from it, though: the character arc, and then just the fact that Keaton.
And they're two valid points. I'll be honest. It's not something you can really just say in a few words, but and I get that. You know what? I'm just going to point out a few others. I think that for me were some stronger points. I will admit my favorite part of this was the fact that they decided to go to a true teenage origin story. So it was very ballsy of them to kind of take upon a totally different story arc. It's no different than when I had to accept Doctor Strange from his point of view, right, in his universe. Yeah, he's kind of like Stark in that he had the money and he was an arrogant prick and, you know, so on and so forth. He was a similar character to Stark, but the way his story was told was in a unique fashion, right? So, again, Spider-Man in this case, they could have done so many different things with, and leading up to other story arcs, like you brought up Maximum Carnage. I'm more familiar with the Clone Wars and what happened in that regard, but that's a totally different thing. What I loved about this is they decided to go back to the beginning, but without the need of an origin story. Like, they didn't have to retell us how he became, bitten by the spider and so on and so forth.
Yeah, they didn't have to waste half the movie with backstory. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So we've seen Uncle Ben die twice already. We don't need to see it again.
Right. My downfall to this movie, because that can be a great thing when you think of how, we're telling that teenage story all over again for Peter's sake. But the downfall was I got this very Disney-ish tone for me, I guess, maybe. That's the way I think of it. It felt like it was a kid's story being told, to the point where it reminded me of why I don't like the animated series as much anymore. These gadgets that he suddenly conveniently has, like the watch that Tony Stark gives him, that gives him that holographic logo that projects somewhere. I think I told Jay that same night, I was surprised we didn't see the motorcycle, for crying out loud. Like, a lot of these toys, well, he had the drone. I guess that in itself was a toy that I didn't see.
Ugh, don't get me started.
The suit was really awesome, so I love the fact that the suit came with its own AI, which leads into Jennifer Connelly being the voice actor.
Yeah, talk about wasted potential.
I thought
Jennifer Connelly.
Well, the catch with that one is the guy who did the guy who did Jarvis's voice, who does Vision now, Paul Bentley, is married to Jennifer Connelly. So that's a connection there.
He's also the Vision.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. So it's ironic in that
I missed that.
The same voice that did the AI for Jarvis is the actor's married to Jennifer Connelly, who now did the voice
does the voice
Karen.
of
Karen. He named it Karen. He was calling her Suit Lady for a while.
Suit Lady, yeah.
Which I don't know. For me, in my mind, it's like it's a very caring lady.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's bad. But
she was pretty caring about.
Before I rant on further, my biggest gripe was the fact that they left me with a movie that, like I said, left a bad taste in my mouth because it felt too geared towards a younger audience. Maybe if that's what they're trying. If I could summarize it, I guess
definitely.
Here's one thing. Going back to Tobey Maguire, and Garfield's character was my favorite. They had tones in their story arcs where they were very serious, like there's potential death around every corner.
Tobey Maguire went all
he went with the more emotional one. Garfield was my favorite because I guess maybe the way they told his story and how he played out the very witty Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Petey Parker.
Witty Pitty Parker.
Witty Pitty Parker.
But again, different story arcs being said. This one was a much younger Peter, so again, I had to accept the fact that it was a different tone of a movie. But that was the problem I had, and I don't know if that had some semblance of what to look forward to down the road, but that's what worries me here. Maybe that's why this only got a 3 instead of a 3.5.
Is that you don't see any future for Holland?
It's not that I don't see a future. Okay, let me put it this way. I brought up that whole animated series with, the toys, the gadgets and shit that remind me of how they're pushing the Spider-Man and Tony Stark, Iron Man team up. They did that a lot with that one particular animated series. I forget what. It just didn't impress me. It's like it took the Spider-Man character, which simply put is a guy with webbing and, spider senses and abilities to cling to walls and so on and so forth. Without the gadgets, he's still Spider-Man. Now that they've added all the gadgets, it's
Tony. The thing is that Tony doesn't
gimmicky.
understand that Peter is still Spider-Man without the suit. Tony Stark is not Iron Man without the suit, right? So he has the advantage of years of experience. Like, how many versions of the Iron Man suit did he go through before he came up with his current version? Even in the movies, they always have him updating the suit. So he takes that
every
wealth
time he makes a
of
new
knowledge-
movie, it's a new mark.
So he takes that wealth of knowledge and instantly applies it to all of Peter's suit, right? So now Peter's got the suit. It's got all, like, they take off the training wheel protocol and it's got all of these toys on it. But
which I thought was ingenious.
That goes to part of his immaturity though, because Peter, you never take an untested weapon into battle, and Peter tells his friend, unlock the whole thing, take the training wheels off, and then he goes out to fight, and it's like,
and then the AI wants to go into kill mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
advanced interrogation mode. Yeah, like
okay, that's another thing that brought me to my point. Why I felt like there was that humorous moment where, and I even asked you myself, is that somewhere in the comics where
that's
just them playing with the humor.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I get it.
That's humor, but behind it, they are exhibiting Peter's immaturity as still a young adolescent man. He's like, I got all these toys.
Right.
And then he realizes pretty quickly after that having them and not knowing how to use them it doesn't do you any good.
Right, and that made perfect sense. We all knew that the second he had his friend turn off the safety parameters,
it was going to be trouble.
We knew that was the reason why he had those safety precautions in place in the first place, so that he would slowly unravel through experience and be trained, which brought me back to what I was worried about. Spider-Man teamed up with who again? Nova and a variety of other characters that were kind of like the B team of the Avengers. They were being trained to be full-fledged Avengers.
Well, that's whatever. You're talking about the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Is that what that is? Okay, well, that reminded me of why I was a bit worried of how this arc with Spider-Man would become a little too childish, because that entire cartoon series was certainly geared towards the younger audience, and that's not what I wanted.
I agree. It was geared to a younger audience. So your least favorite is the gimmicky stuff that ties into the toys and the more childish, what's your favorite, you said?
Well, my favorite was the fact that I appreciated them taking the approach of a younger Peter Parker. It was ballsy of them to do so. That was a smart move. But the way the character was shown to me in this movie was not what I wanted, because I got more of a Disney-like tone to it. So I'm sorry for using those words, but I mean they kind of apply in this case.
They just Disneyed all over it.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm worried that Spider-Man's going to become too gimmicky, and that's.
He already is too gimmicky.
I know, but they're doing it too literal this time. With all the gadgets he's going to have, they got to be careful. Like, the Iron Spider suit, that's a different tone. The suit did that. And I get the suit he has on is, again, all the gadgets.
So your favorite, your favorite is that they went with a young Spider-Man.
Yeah, like I said, I appreciated it was a ballsy move for them to approach this kind of Spider-Man, a young teenage version, because I feel that's the type of Spider-Man we should have had by now. After all these years, if anything, we should have had an adult Spider-Man. That's where Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
That's where the reboots come into play. And,
exactly.
And because Sony owns the property, they're always going to keep rebooting him as a child, because they do want to target it to a childlike audience.
I get that.
So I'll get into my best and worst. The things that I like best about this, like I said, it's a constant battle between my inner Marvel fanboy and my inner fan of movies. I want it to be a good movie. So I have to understand that they can't do the same story over and over again. They tried to do the similar story with Amazing Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and it was kind of just like a rehash, and people didn't really like it. It's like, we've seen this before. So I understood they had to do that different. I understand that to make the love interest different, they had to make his surrounding friends even different. So much to the point where we're not even sure who these characters are supposed to be. Like, they have similar names to the characters in Spider-Man's world, like Liz. We assumed was Liz Allen, but now I'm not even sure. Is she Liz Toombs? I'm not 100% on that. Ned, is he Ned Leeds? We're not sure. And we obviously Flash Thompson was there, and I mean, everyone even just looked a little bit different, to say the least.
Yeah.
So it's like they were just really trying to change things too much, I feel, and that's where my Marvel fanboy comes in. Is like, I'm just like, why are they doing this? I don't like this, but also at the same time, I understand they got to modernize it, and they do gotta, like you said, target it to a younger audience.
Yeah,
so I have to take both those ideas and throw them together, and I have to think about like why is it, so why is it good? It's good because it's fun.
Yeah.
It is another reboot of Spider-Man, but he's in the Marvel Universe this time. So I mean, I'm looking forward to see what Tom Holland can do as Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe, going against Iron Man, Captain America. He's even like making fun of like Thor, or not making fun, making impersonations of Thor and Hulk in the mirror. So what's gonna happen when he meets up with those characters later on down the line when they do Infinity War? So that I'm really looking forward to. So for that, being the Marvel fan and being even a fan of the MCU, it does get a little bit more. I'm gonna give them a little more credit. It's like, it's a little, I would have liked to see a little bit more, maybe this first time out, but at the same time, maybe it's good that they didn't do so much. They definitely focused on his high school life a lot.
Yeah.
And you could say that's a good thing, because that does kind of like, that goes hand in hand with the comics. They really did focus on the
fact that he was
his social life. Yeah, he was always trying to get a date with the hot girl, and at the same time he was a nerd. I do agree, a lot of conveniences, and I especially agree with that Vulture. I found Vulture was very much the Green Goblin of this story.
Yeah, that was the first part in the movie where I was like, really? Oh. Like, I enjoyed everything right up to that point. It was like when he answered the door at first, I thought, oh my god, Vulture already knows where his girlfriend is, and he's like, oh, here's my daughter.
Yeah,
oh, what?
That's what I thought too. It's like, shit, Vulture is like, oh, it's her dad. Oh, that's okay.
Oh, damn.
Now he's the Green Goblin.
Yeah,
even that part where he had the knife,
yeah.
I'm like, this is weird. He started looking like Willem Dafoe in this scene.
And then yeah.
In his crazy Beetlejuice-like moment? No.
Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't show through.
Nice fucking model.
So I gotta say my favorite is the performance of Tom Holland and Michael Keaton in this. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is awesome. I love seeing Michael Keaton back in comic movies. It's great. He's the Batman for me, so I like seeing him now as the old crusty old Vulture. Yeah. And he's like ripping off like the alien gears to make weapons for his crew. They did the cleanup after, if you go back and you watch Avengers, as that battle for New York that happens at the end of
the incident.
Now they actually openly talk about it in this movie. And it's like, we're taking the alien, what was left over from all the alien ships that the Avengers destroyed, and they're turning them into weapons. And now he's like, oh, it's the dawning of a new age. And I thought this was kind of cool too. It's kind of like, almost like Vulture was bringing about these supervillains, the street level supervillains, into the Marvel universe. Like, we're not talking about like gods like Loki, and we're not talking about like assassins.
You're talking about the
like Zemo. We're talking about just like regular Joes who are like Spider-Man, but they're super villains. That's where like Vulture and Shocker come into play, and they're in here, and they're leading up to the Scorpion.
They don't really, from the movie standpoint though, they don't really tell you that it's Vulture. You know what I mean? They never really say the name. He doesn't become the Vulture until later on.
Yeah, I know.
You realize that it's him. And I mean, if you read the comics, Adrian Toomes is Vulture. You know what I mean? But if you're just watching the movie, it seems a little bit unfocused as to what's going on, because he's just this salvage captain here who just picks up garbage and stuff, and then they burn him once and he's like, all right, let's kill everybody, you know what I mean? And they fast forward, and we can't talk about this movie without talking about the special effects, because that Vulture redesign of the suit was fucking awesome.
Well, I like the Vulture.
Man,
yeah.
it was
That's another thing I
badass.
did like about the Vulture. He looked awesome.
He looked awesome.
And I was saying to him, another thing that reminded me of the Green Goblin is that his wings detached and kind of almost became a Goblin's glider in some way.
Yeah. You know, the one thing is that they keep on referring to the high altitude seal. They keep dropping these hints about this project, the high altitude seal.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why
he didn't want to do it.
If it was that easy and that quick for his engineer to do,
Yeah.
why didn't he just let him do it? Because it worked so well. I mean, granted, the application is limited, and also those anti-grav rocks there that allow you to open up matter in between spaces is a little bit meh. But the high altitude
is
seal,
reminiscent of
that's the alien
those
tech.
portal. That is the alien tech. It's
It
kind
is.
of, but you know what that reminds me of? What's that who's that villain? The Spot is like Own. His
Well,
last name is Own.
you could
You
throw
can
on
throw like those holes into walls and stuff.
Yeah.
And you go through it.
Yeah.
That's what that kind of reminded me of.
the only thing
That was the
they-
Tinkerer, by the way, who's working on all that stuff.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know that. I just
So
said
he's
because
an OG Spider-Man villain.
yeah, I know Vulture's been around for a long time, but
I
I
said
have
it
to
again.
say that suit redesign really stuck with me, because I know what the Vulture looked like in the comic books, and this looked way better. Like, this was cool looking.
Yeah. In the comics, he's just a shriveled old man in a crappy vulture bird costume. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, at one point there was a story where he drew out Spider-Man's youth. Spider-Man became an old man for a couple hours, and Vulture became a young man.
Yeah, that was that was a power he got for a little bit, where he would drain people's youth and he'd become youthful himself.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're talking about comic book stuff. That's where my least favorite comes into play about this. So, like I said, the Vulture was awesome, and the performance of Holland and Keaton were
both
awesome. That's my favorite part, and also the fact that he's in the MCU. That's my other thing. Least favorite, the stuff they changed too many things. I agree. I didn't like all the bells and whistles on the Spider-Man suit. I like some of them, but it's like, okay, he has an AI. I mean, him talking with the AI was kind of funny.
The AI
but
is perfectly fine with the AI. What I didn't like was along with the physical gadgets, like the drone thing. I didn't
like that. I was like, "Come on, Droney, let's go." It's like, "Oh, that's
Droney,
immediate."
like-
As soon as he called it Droney, it's like, "It's got a name. There's going to be toys of it now."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, and you can't tell me that nobody would notice that little flying mechanical spider.
Yeah, I
whipping
didn't like
around
that either. It's just like, oh, that thing was just in his chest the whole time. How convenient.
Yeah.
That was crap. I understand the stuff on the goggles. That makes sense to me. I understand the different spider shooters. Like, that makes sense to me, but there's just...
He could always do that without the suit, without the advanced suit before.
Exactly.
Like in the comic
and
books,
I think that's a part of my problem, too, is that they kind of make it like he couldn't do this all on his own before Stark. That's not fucking true. Peter Parker could totally make all of this shit.
And that's...
He made the web shooters, like, he made the webbing. He knows how to make it impact webbing and all that special kind of webbing he makes later, because he does it.
Yeah.
If you read the comics, depending on how hard he presses it, or how long he presses it, different sprays of webbing come out, and that's the way he designed the web shooters.
Yeah, he's like a Windex bottle. He can you turn the knob one way and it, you know what I mean? It's a stream or it's a spray.
Turns the old spider knob.
A little bit of spider mist.
And then, it's what's the best spider knob to use for Black Cat?
Yeah.
Spider knob.
But that works. See, what I took away from that, though, was that Tony is not Iron Man without his suit. Like I said before, he's nothing without his suit. So he designed a suit for Spider-Man that would almost make him depend on the suit. You know what I mean? Like, that's Tony impressing himself on that
Although in
technology.
Iron Man 3, he does kind of hold his own without the suit. But once
mean,
again, he needs other things like gadgets that he makes and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas like Spider-Man is his powers. He can use his powers. They're functional without that suit that Tony gave him. And he proves that at the end of the movie, because that's his last fight. He doesn't use the suit that Tony gave him.
Yeah.
Which was actually another good thing about the movie.
Yeah. that he just had his old
By
West
the
shoes
way,
back.
that outfit was very reminiscent of the Scarlet Spider's outfit, except the colors were just reversed.
And the hood was different. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but
wasn't
it very much reminded me of the Scarlet Spider's
like
outfit.
the vest
hoodie
with the
thing.
little the sleeveless vest with the little things, the little baubles on it. There.
I think it also reminded me of the new Spider-Man game coming out on PS4.
Yeah.
In terms of that one had a
No,
white symbol.
you're talking about the Scarlet. You're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about the other suit.
I'm
sorry.
talking about his homemade suit. I'm not talking about.
you're right. Sorry.
Mentioning that though, mentioning
Steel
that
Spider.
Sony game, I can't help but think
It's part Steel Spider and it's part like his new look in the comics.
Yeah, it does look cool though.
Yeah, it's a nice design.
That new Sony game though, I can't help but think that Sony is just kind of trying to strike while the iron is hot, right? They've got this completely redesigned Spider-Man game coming out right around the reboot.
Well, that's
They
their
did
thing.
that. They
The
did that on
marketing,
purpose.
they did that intentionally. That
Oh,
outfit,
yeah.
exactly why you
Yeah.
mentioned that.
You guys pointed out, simply said at the beginning of the podcast that Sony's always been trying to withhold and just enough for them to have their hand in the pie.
And I feel
So that's part of this whole plot of theirs, is that they're always going to pull back the reins whenever they feel like, oh, no, we want you to do it this way. In this case, it makes sense they would decide to have two different projects on the go, let them do their own thing, but at the same time, whisper in each ear saying, by the way, just let you know, you guys really should launch around the same time so that we can push the marketing equally between both. That way we're spending a little less of this and both get to profit from it quite intensely, I might add.
In Civil War though, I mean, you can pretty much see the leash around Spider-Man's neck, where they're like they let him out and then they kind of pull him back.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in this one here, it's nice that Sony and Marvel get together and they actually they
They're
invested money in each other and said, let's make this movie. You know what I mean? Because they got Tony Stark, they got Pepper Potts, they got all they got all of those.
Gwyneth
characters.
Paltrow returns as Pepper Potts,
As Pepper
which I was
Potts,
happy
yeah.
to see.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I got to wrap up my best and worst. So, like I said, there's lots to talk about, especially when it comes to Marvel movies. And that's, like I said, and that's probably another part of the things that I don't like about this is what you're saying is like, that Sony has his grubby paws all over this, and it's like, let's market the shit out of this movie, because this is what it's all about for Sony. It's like, fine, if we don't get to make the movies anymore, we're at least going to throw a few gimmicky little ploys in there, like the spider drone coming out of his chest, and the Steel Spider outfit at the end, which totally looks like the one in the new game coming out.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. The too many convenient changes. Not only that, like Sony would want for marketing aspects, but also to say it's like, okay, it's different characters. It's different now. It's like, okay, like I mean, I get it. You got to tell a different story. I don't want to see the same story repeated. So it is kind of nice to see a different array of characters around Parker this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, Aunt May is young now and fucking hot. It's Marissa Tomei, and she's like strutting her stuff. In the very first scene that she comes out, it's like, whoa! I was like, where did Aunt May come from?
Yeah.
Woof! And
That's
it's
not
like
the Aunt May I
everyone's hitting on
remember.
her. It's like, this is weird, man.
Yeah, the guy.
And
at
then
the
like
deli.
she's sitting at the restaurant, suddenly she's pretending she's old again. And it's like, no. The last scene, you were just like doing a model
Gyrating
pose.
and,
Like, where did old Aunt May? Like, she transforms from like super hot young Aunt May to like old Aunt May. So
Actually, that's
visibly
like
through
the
scenes.
poorest example of acting in the movie is Marissa Tomei trying to act like she's old.
Yeah,
They
I
even
know.
give her
And
like
trying
the old
to make her
clothes
act
and
like she's
stuff.
not hot.
Yeah.
Like she's like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. You're
That's your
busting
son
in.
and her friends.
You're busting in on your teenage son,
Yeah.
who for whatever
Striking
reason
a
doesn't have
sexy
any clothes
model
on,
pose,
and you
like,
got a
whoa.
sexy model pose. Like, I see you, Marissa.
Hey,
Tomei.
boys.
I see you. What
Oh,
you're
by the
doing.
way, we're related, Peter. Don't think about it. What?
I could just imagine the amount of retakes they had to do because of poor Tom. There.
like, Aunt May-
couldn't hold his own there.
And me, we're only related by marriage.
Okay, stop rolling the cameras. Yeah, we're only related by marriage. I'm actually your second cousin's sister's brother's roommate.
Well, I mean, it's she married Ben Parker, right? That's why she has the last name, or at least we don't know. I mean,
we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know if Ben ever
Ben.
existed,
They
yeah.
never gave us a Ben Parker, so we don't know where that stands.
If you want me to know about May, you got to give me Ben.
Oh god.
Anyways,
Does it really matter considering we've got a brand new Aunt May anyway? I don't think we want to see who.
well, it'd be interesting to see like how Ben's death might play into this, because maybe he doesn't die from the bank robber. I've heard rumors that he could have died in the actual incident.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would explain why
The New York incident. With
that
the
would
aliens
explain why
attacking
May
Avengers.
is so overprotective of Peter, because she's constantly telling she sees one of the stories on the news that he was directly involved in. She says, "You see something like that? Oh, the deli."
Oh, by the way,
you see that? You
let's
run
talk
the
about
other
the
way.
WTF ending where May finds out that
Oh yeah,
Spider-Man, Peter is Spider-Man.
Just stands there.
what the beep? And then it just goes to
I
credits.
just hate the fact that why the hell is Peter just standing in his fucking room like he doesn't know there's another
He's
person in
really
his apartment?
clumsy
Like, are you
with
fucking
his
kidding me?
identity in
Well,
this movie.
he's conveniently clumsy.
But it was hilarious though, where she just walks into the room and doesn't even get a chance to finish her sentence.
Yeah, and they cut to credits. Although, like, it does...
So another way that they're making this Spider-Man different.
Yeah.
His friends are different. He's not really friends with Harry. He's friends with Ned, who could be Ned Leeds, who later becomes a Hobgoblin.
But they make him... He still has that essence of that he still knows that, like, bringing out his identity would be a mistake. Because Ned tries to tell him a couple times, just tell everybody, like, what's it like to be famous and have nobody know who you are? And he tells him, look, just don't tell anybody. He can't tell the girl he likes. He won't tell his Aunt May. He won't... Ned only knows because he found out on accident. He won't tell the rest of the school. And even in the scene with the party, where he has a chance to be Spider-Man in front of all of his classmates, even though they won't know that it's actually Peter Parker, he still is wrestling with it because he knows that toying with that idea...
Because with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. And Taco Tuesdays. But...
They don't actually ever say that in the movie, but it's...
Taco Tuesdays?
Not either. But, it's still in there because if you watch Civil War, he kind of says something similar to that, like that to Tony.
Yeah.
He's like, when you can do something to help and then you don't and then the bad things happen, that's when it's your fault.
Yeah.
Is what he said, which is very similar to with great power comes great responsibility. But they said it in such a nice way that it wasn't the same derivative crap. Like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, they tried to have Uncle Ben say it differently, but he basically just said the same thing. He's like, what are you trying to say, Uncle Ben? You trying to say with great power comes great responsibility? No. I'm not trying to say that.
See,
like,
and that's the...
Yeah, you are, Charlie Sheen.
Tony Stark comes back in this movie and says, okay, but if you do something and you do it wrong, you better realize that people can get hurt or they can die. Like, if he was, like, and this is directly talking about the boat, right? Charlie Sheen.
I think you said
Martin
Charlie Sheen.
I meant Martin Sheen.
When they're on the ferry, when they're on the Staten Island ferry, and Peter decides to foil the weapons deal. Now you're on a boat, motherfucker, with a whole bunch of innocent civilians, and you've got this powder keg of this criminal element waiting to go off. You know what I mean? Like, he should have tracked them and waited for later, till they were on land, till maybe there weren't quite so many people around. An older Peter might have made that distinction, and that is kind of the thing I think that Tony Stark is trying to tell him. Like, look, you can do this, but you gotta think about it. He says, do what I would do, and then don't do what I would do.
Again, that's why it brought back me to that cartoon where Tony Stark is very much the mentor to
The father
Peter
figure,
Parker. Yeah, the father figure, and in such a way that unfortunately both his good and bad habits were rubbing off on Peter.
Yeah.
That does remind me of what this version of Peter Parker was in this movie for me, because it was, like you said, a young boy not quite knowing what he should or shouldn't do in any, crime-fighting situation. He's got no experience on his belt.
Yeah.
He's just developing as we see him do it in this film, right?
Well, Tony's trying to tell him, look, just don't do anything, but Tony can't be there all the time, so he's got this headache of a kid out in Manhattan.
Well, and let's not forget, right now in the MCU, there isn't really any supervillains, right? Like,
No.
the Vulture and his crew are Shocker,
Pretty much,
and them are the beginning of these street-level supervillains. So Tony doesn't really see him really dealing with anything too bad.
He just sees him
they're
getting into
dealing with
trouble.
assassins and gods. Like, these are like, you know what I mean? Now there's like, you got Vulture, they got these got alien tech making them more powerful. They're making them more like the superheroes that are around them. So it's like, Vulture's even like, oh, it's a new age, right?
Which makes sense why you need a character like Spider-Man from, Marvel's point of view to come in from a different angle and say, by the way, while we're telling you the Civil War and the Infinity War story arc, this is also happening, Giving them the perfect excuse to bring in Spider-Man in a slightly different ways to say by the time he's done what he's doing, he'll meet up with them in the Infinity Wars, right?
Well, they're hitting society at all levels, right? From the very bottom to the very top, from gods to paupers, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. So you said the favorite thing was your favorite thing about it was Clayton. Quickly recap.
Was actually Tom Holland and like Peter Parker's story arc was a very satisfying story arc.
And your least favorite?
The fact that the Vulture turned out to be
conveniently the father of his love interest, Liz.
Who is,
Really?
All right, so that is 3.5 for you. Da Boo, quickly recap.
For my 3, my best again had to be the way they had ballsily used. There's a word down.
Ballsily.
I'm inventing words again.
Use their Peter.
They used.
Is it all Peter or all balls?
Let me rephrase this. I have to appreciate the way they brought in this version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man in for the use of the MCU, because this had to be a completely different Spider-Man. So I appreciate. I just appreciates it.
I appreciate it, young Peter.
What I didn't appreciate was the fact that what was it again? I forgot what. What was my least favorite?
Don't look at me. It's your.
Actually, I kind of did forget.
It's your review.
You said you didn't like that they were gearing it too much to kids.
Oh yes, right. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to ignore that part there. So. But yes,
I'm trying to ignore Droney.
They Disneyfied this too much. Sorry.
All right, and my favorite was the performances of Tom Holland and Michael Keaton, and to see the changes of it being in the MCU. And my least favorite was definitely also the gimmicky stuff, which I found was, like I said, gearing it to kids. And also the fact that they tried to made too many changes away from the actual, Spider-Man character from the comic. Although I do understand they kind of need it because they can't tell the same story over and over again. But my Marvel fanboy is just cringing when I see them change the way the characters are. And like even young Aunt May, as great as Marissa Tomei looks, it's still weird to me.
It is definitely odd.
It's a good weird though.
Aunt May has always been an old aunt. She can't just suddenly be good looking.
She just suddenly can't be Marissa Tomei. Like, what is this?
Yes, she can, and let it happen. Don't change her.
All right, so final comments, guys.
The fight scenes are actually really awesome, which we didn't touch on. The special effects are top notch. The story pacing is pretty good, and the soundtrack is odd, but it was cool to see them use the 60s story at the beginning of the movie, the 60s Spider-Man theme song, but orchestrated. Awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
Definitely got to see it in theaters, guys, because this, again, is one of those theater movies. But if you really want to appreciate Spider-Man in their new universe, you have to see this before you can make any judgment calls on the road.
Yeah.
See it.
Yeah, I agree. Don't judge it before you see it. It actually is a pretty fun movie. It does pay a lot of homages to Spider-Man, and there's a lot of Easter eggs if you're a huge Marvel fan. Yeah. Try not to get it in your head too much that they're changing the characters that much, because this is the third time they're doing Spider-Man, so we got to take it with a grain of salt, and we got to understand they got to do something different. They can't do it the same all the time. All right, so
3.5 out of 5 is still a 7.
That's pretty good. That's not bad.
It's still 7 out of 10.
All right, so you can check us out and always join the conversation on Twitter at We Promise Nothing Drop the G. You could give us a big old like on Facebook, because we like when you do that. And you could check us out on Eastlink Late Night Ticket, Channel 10 at 10. That's 10 p.m. And you can check it out 10 Sudbury, and it's now on demand. And give us a big subscribe. Leave a comment below if you didn't like Spider-Man, or maybe you did like Spider-Man. I don't know. Do you agree with us? Do you not agree with us? Leave a comment below. This is Jpar signing out.
Clayton getting webbing all over his pants prematurely.
Ew. So Da Boo going bye-bye after that. Fuck.
And once again, you can hit us up with a comment below if you disagree. But as always, we promise nothing. Good night. Thwip. Thwip, 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 thwip.